Good morning, Trader's Edge with high-tech trading analysis. This morning I want to demonstrate the installation procedure of my HTSupplyDemand for TradeStation. TradeStation App Store has closed and I used to host all of my tools on the App Store. Now that it's closed, I've had to redesign things and I want to demonstrate the installation procedure for that. Okay, so in order to install this, we need to download it from our website. Now, if you did this upon purchase, that's fine. If you didn't, what we would do is we would go back to my website, htech.net, and we would click login, and we would log in. Now, I'm going to do this on, this is not the actual site. This is my stage site, but just for demonstration purposes, once you've logged in, it automatically will direct you to your dashboard. Okay, now here's where we do everything from the site that we need to do. We can check our subscriptions, we can check our orders, we can check our account details. We would click on downloads, and if we click on downloads, we're going to see all of the downloads that are available to us. All we have to do is left click on this and it will download to our computer. Now, what I suggest is maybe we right click on this and say save link as, and you can save it to wherever you want. But left click this. Normally in Explorer it'll download up here, and Chrome it might download down here, but we want to download it to our computer. Now, before we actually install it, we want to make sure that our TradeStation customer number is registered. Now, in the left-hand column here, we just click on TS10 registration. And if we click on that, another menu appears. Now, you're not going to see all of the words on here. I'm doing a lot of troubleshooting and making all of this work for the website on the back end, but in any case, all we're going to do is click here. We're going to type whatever our customer number is, and we're going to click add. It'll tell you whether it's successful or not. And once you have this registered on the website and your product downloaded, we're all set. Okay. So we've done that. I've got the indicator that I've just downloaded onto the desktop. All I'm going to do is double click on that. Okay, it's going to bring up a window and say this is HTSupplyDemand for TradeStation, verified publisher, and I'm going to click yes. Now it's going to come up with an installation menu, and it's going to tell you the name of the product and the version number that we're setting up for TradeStation. We're just going to follow these instructional prompts. Make sure that you read the disclaimer and say that I agree. Then from here, you're going to need to put in the email address that you registered on the website. Whatever it is, whatever email that you use to register and purchase the product, not your PayPal, your website email. That must be entered here. We just enter it here and click apply. This is going to go through and install everything for us. Now, careful. The minute that I press finish, it's going to finish this setup, but it's also going to open TradeStation. But notice that it's opening TradeStation automatically into an untitled desktop. No matter what you had open before, this is just opening this so that we can install the indicator. The import wizard is automatically going to come up and say, we have something to import, an indicator. We select all. It was already selected because the checkbox was there. Click next. We have the available studies. You can click select all. It was already checked, and click finish. It's going to come up and say that it's been successfully imported to your studies. Now at this point, let's wait for that hourglass again to go away. That's TradeStation's just doing its thing. Now, before we do anything right now, we're not in the right desktop. This was just the installation. Let's go ahead and exit out of TradeStation. Perfect. We're right back to where we started, except for everything's installed and we're ready to go. All we have to do is open up TradeStation, log back in. I'll cut through this. Now, you will notice that I log into, I'm doing a lot of testing, so I'm constantly logging into a blank desktop and a blank workspace. And I just do that so that TradeStation opens up quickly. And at this point, once I'm logged in, I can open up whatever workspace I want. But I do provide you 3 workspaces in this installation. So if we click File, Workspaces, Open, okay, initially it's going to come up to your if you're using TradeStation 10, you've got a TradeStation 10 in your Documents folder, and in that folder you have a Workspaces, and that's where all your workspaces are stored in TradeStation 10. So I'm providing a folder inside your workspaces called High-Tech Trading Analysis. And in that folder, you're not going to see all these workspaces. You're going to see these 3 workspaces. I've got an HT Supply and Demand 3 chart with radar screen, and we're going to open that one up first. We've got another one for settings, meaning I'm using the same chart. I think I'm using ES in that. We'll open it up also, and I have the left and right strength set differently on all 4 charts to see the difference between what the settings do. I get asked all the time, what's the best settings for me to use? Well, there is no answer to that. There is no best. It depends on what you want to look at, and we'll discuss that in a bit. Okay, and then I have another one for 4 time frames. We'll open up the 3 chart with radar screen to begin with. And we'll explain some of the features and some of the differences between what we have now and what we had before. So this workspace is nothing more than 3 different instruments. We've got NQ, ES, and the RTY. And then I've got a radar screen as well. All 3 of these are 5 minutes. The radar screen is 5 minutes. And this is really just to demonstrate that I've added alerts into both the charts and the ability to use on radar screen. Those are going to be a close in the zone, a touch of the zone, a creation of a zone, or the break of a zone. So it just so happens it looks like that all 3 of these instruments, their last bar closed inside the zone. As well, if they closed inside the zone, they've touched the zone. So the difference between the 2 is if a bar comes up, touches this, and closes well below, it's still touched, and it will be highlighted in the radar screen until the next bar closes. Then if the next bar touches it, it'll come on again. If the next bar doesn't touch it, it won't. Now, the close of bar, if that bar closes in that zone, if the next bar closes out, breaks it, or goes below, that'll come off. If it closes in the zone again, it'll stay on. Pretty simple. Now, let's look at the configuration of this. We have the same thing. We have an SD style or a zone style. Okay, and that can be a wick, body, bar close, or line. Can be any of those 3. We have a left strength. We have a right strength. We tell it whether we want to calculate the broken zones or not. You can or you can't. It's much more, once you start calculating the broken zones, there can be a lot of zones depending on how many days back and how small of a settings you're using up here in your strengths. This can save a lot of resources if you don't want to see the broken zones on your chart. Okay, we provide price labels on the far right for these. You can turn them off if you don't want. And then here are the, now alerts are set up in just like everything else in your alert section. The problem with just turning it on here is I can't select between which ones I want on my chart. Maybe I want one, maybe I want two, maybe I don't want any, maybe I want all four. I give you the ability to fine-tune that here so that you can choose which of those, if any, that you want an alert and or a sound to place. Now, this only is for alerts. It does not determine which column down here in radar screen will be shown. Let's go back. I want to go back just a step in. We're going to open up our File Explorer and we're going to go to our Documents folder. Now, when we installed this initially just now, it installed a file or a folder, excuse me, in your documents called High-Tech Trading Analysis. If we go into that folder, we see a folder called TradeStation. And if we go into that folder, we'll see all of the products for TradeStation that you have of mine. Now, here is the supply and demand. Let's go into that. Inside this folder is also, here's where your workspaces are. If you ever need to go back to the original ones, you can come into this folder, drag these, and notice that when we're in our documents folder, this is where my folder is. But if we scroll down, there's your TradeStation 10 folder, and in there was your workspaces, and all of mine get placed here. But you can move your workspaces around that way in TradeStation. So where were we? We were back here, we were back here, we were back here. There's your workspaces. So there's also a documents folder. Inside this documents folder, you've got your license agreement. We've got the ELD that we imported. If for some reason that one ever gets corrupt or whatever, we can import it from this directory again. And we also have a PDF. Well, this PDF is our manual per se on how this works and what it does. So as you can see, we've got pictures here of what we just looked at, right? We've got our styles, and we said that in this style, we've got wick, body. Well, if I scroll down just a little further to the next page, there's a detailed explanation of what those mean. And then all of our settings per se are going to be outlined here. Now, a couple things let's look at from a color standpoint. We'll come back to that. We'll close that. Let's come back into here and take a look at that study again. So down here, we've got active zones. So we've got active zone colors. We've got active line colors. We've got transparencies, broken line colors. You know, for the most part, you're going to play with this. You're going to find out what you want. You're going to set this up once, and that's going to be it. But what I'm trying to demonstrate here is the difference between using just the standard word. I believe there's 144 colors we can call out just by using the word. And or if that's not enough, we can call out colors using an RGB, which is what you're seeing here, which I'm using just for demonstration purposes. So if we went back to our manual and we scroll down one more page to the last page, if we take a look at this link here, this is showing us our colors. Now, what I've done is I've linked to the TradeStation development help to show you the different types of named colors you can type in. Now, let's not confuse the ARGB with just the RGB that I've got in here. We can't enter in an input. We can't enter the alpha into the RGB. We just use the RGB, and then the transparency is set actually in a different input. But in any case, we come to this. We can see that we use any one of these words over here will get you any one of those colors. Now, if we come back, and that's, like I said, that was about 144 of those. If the names aren't enough for you, we can open up this link down here. And if we make this a little bigger, we can come in and see all of the different, I've got a layout for you of all of the different RGB colors that are available. Would be this column here, middle column, excuse me, for any of the colors on this sheet. That pretty much covers the manual. There's not a lot of settings here, guys. We're going to check our zone style. We're going to set our left and right strengths, and I'll show you what that means when I open up one of the sample workspaces here in a second. We're going to determine whether or not we want to calculate and show our broken levels. Do we want to see our price levels? Do we want any alerts? And then we're just going to set our colors. We have colors. We have, I believe I've got colors set up so that you can set the inside of the fill zone. You can set the outside rectangle or line color. Broken and active are completely separate. So now the same thing applies down to the radar screen. All I've done here is we've gone to studies. We've said add study. I'm going to go ahead and edit study since it's already added onto here. Okay, and we'll come down to the supply and demand. We'll do a customize, and it's the same thing. The only difference when we apply it to radar screen, okay, so several things here. We still have to set what our left and right strength is, what kind of zone that we want this based off of. So remember that whatever we set here, if it's not set the same way on the chart, what you're looking at on the chart might not be representative of what you're looking at on the radar screen. Just make sure that whatever you're using this for, if you're trying to verify that on the chart, that both are set to the same settings. Okay, from this, we are highlighting our cells as to when these conditions happen. They are based on the active zone colors. So if you want a different color here, change the active. None of the other stuff makes any difference down here. But what I also want to look here, when we load it to the radar screen, we're going to need to load additional data. Okay, so the radar screen doesn't do that. And if we don't load any additional bars, then it doesn't have that historical data to show. So all I'm doing is saying load 500 bars on here so that I probably have the most, depending on the chart you're looking at, depending on your settings, load the appropriate amount of days back. 500 or bars back. 500 might be too many, 500 might not be enough, all depending on your settings. So let's go ahead and cancel out of that. And I think earlier we saw the boxes being colored. That was a pretty good demonstration at the time. So a couple other workspaces that I include. The next workspace we're going to look at is for settings. So if I open that 4 settings up, so in this demonstration, what you're looking at is ES. Okay, I've got ES on, I believe this is a 5-minute chart on all 4 charts. It's the same chart. Look at the bars. The bars, they're exactly the same. Now, what I'm trying to show you here is the differences of what you're going to get from the zones displayed on your chart based on your settings. So in this one, if I look at this, I believe I've got this set on 12.3 for a setting. On this one, I probably have 24.3. On this one, I have 36.3, maybe 5. Let's just look. Probably 36.3. 36.3. Okay, so what I'm trying to demonstrate is the change of the left strength. Now, the right strength will change just the same. The change of the left strength, we can see going from 12 to 24, we lose this. Well, why do we lose this? Well, this is a zone because 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's the highest high within our last setting, and it continues to be the highest high through our right setting. If we looked at this one, this bar is less than 24 bars back, I'm going to assume, which doesn't qualify that to be a zone. And then the same thing down here. You know, now that we go 48 back, we're going to get a few less. And the bigger in general, the larger the left strength, the fewer and more predominant zones you're going to see. Now, what is best? Well, some people want to look at a chart like this. This is pretty clean down here and looks like it works pretty well. Some people want to see a chart like this. I have customers that want to put this on a 1-1 setting and see every single swing involved on every single bar. It's not set in stone. It's very dependent on what your needs are, and that's what makes that nice, is that you've got enough settings there that you can set it the way you want to see it. So what is the next workspace? And the last workspace, we'll open that up, and 4 time frames. 4 time frames, huh? So all we're doing here is pulling up very similar to the same workspace that we did the last time. Only when we open this workspace, we're looking at the same instrument with different left settings. In this, we're using the same instrument, but I believe this is a 1-minute chart, and then this is a 5-minute chart, and this is a Renko chart, and this is a 30-minute chart. And it's just demonstrating setting up the same instruments using multiple time frames and how that would work, whether we're using a time-based chart or whether we're using a tick chart or a Renko chart or whatever. Now, I believe on this one, I probably have this set up if we go into the studies. On a Renko chart, I probably set this up for bar instead of wick, because a wick and a Renko might just tend to be a couple ticks. But again, that really is going to depend on how big of a zone you want, what type of bars you're using. For the most part, I'm going to tell you I use mine on wick for any time-based type charts. And that's just because of the risk. If you use the whole bar on a 5-minute chart and above, that's outside of my risk tolerance, and I just want a better selection. I believe that should get you going. If you have any specific questions, please let me know. If not, man, have a great day and please be safe.